He said, all you have to do is,
Oh man.
I said, I don't think so. Oh, but you'll make money, man. This is great, man. You'll make money. I said, no, I don't think so.
I thought I saw you late last night in Brooklyn,
You call me your mentor, and I call you my mentor.
No. You're my mentor.
No,
I'm
you're
not
my
yours.
mentor.
No.
It's really hot, just so you know.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. I think any teacher will probably tell you that you learn a great deal from your own students if you really enjoy teaching.
I was a school teacher in Egypt, you know, art school teacher.
I didn't know,
You didn't know?
but then you've done everything. I mean, nothing surprises me. I mean, you could tell me, you know, you were a trapeze artist. I would say, I agree. So you can fool anything over me. Yeah.
No,
So-
I was a school teacher.
Yeah, for how old, what were the students, how old were they?
So I taught from pre-K all the way to high school. And yeah, no, it was, it's not really fond memories of mine. You know, back then
Why? Why not? Why was it not? How old were you?
In my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah. First of all, it was because I couldn't find myself artistically in Egypt. And you know, I graduated. I had no, I didn't no idea what to do with myself. And my parents were like, "You got to get a job, get your foot somewhere." I don't know what. And my mom is a school teacher,
Yeah.
a really good one.
Yeah.
So she had a friend, and she's like, you know, if Omar is sitting around at home like a bum, which I was, why don't you let him teach? So I went and I started teaching, and it was tough, man. It was really tough because you're dealing with, you know, we're dealing with kids from pre-K to high school.
But not in the same class.
Not in the same class, but you go crazy because you're teaching 6-year-olds, and then you're teaching 13 years old.
Next,
and then you're teaching
the next
8.
hour, you mean?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And you know, I would tell the kids, all right, today we're gonna do abstract art. I want you to throw paints on the paper.
Yeah.
And then
And they threw the paint at you?
no, they sometimes, but no. Then the parents' day would come, and the parents would come, and they want to see what their kids did, and then they'd
Big show.
papers with blotches of paint on it. And they would go and like, what is this teacher teaching our kids? Where is the painting? This is.
What are you teaching them?
Yeah, this looks like his napkin after he ate spaghetti with tomato sauce.
Yeah. And you had to explain this is great art.
Yeah.
And it's worth $10,000 what your kid just made.
It didn't go over well. I got fired
Yeah, I can see that.
several times. Yeah,
Oh my
several
God.
times.
So even then, you knew you wanted to be a painter.
Yeah. I've been painting since I was 4. Like I was drawing since I was 4, and it's all because you know Egypt was like the Faculty of Fine Arts in many ways in the 50s and the 60s was much more progressive, but you know ever since
In the 50s in Egypt, you
Yeah,
think?
yeah.
More progressive.
oh yeah
Than when? Than
now,
because
when the army took over, it's a dictatorship, and dictatorships
you mean Nasser?
they
yeah.
they choke culture.
So it was rather progressive, maybe. Or
Very progressive. My God, if the arts in Egypt in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and then after the dictator took over, it lasted until the 60s and 70s as you know the wave continued, but it started the curve going down.
right. Well, everything goes through different periods of time, but like, I mean, you were born where? Sweden, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought when I first met you in Inji, I said, oh, Egyptians. And you said, no, I was born in Sweden, And actually now I'm an American, or now I'm a, you know, so what do you feel you are? Or
No,
do
I'm
you-
the three.
Yeah.
I'm the three. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like my childhood was in Europe,
Yeah.
and so that's why, you know, I feel very at home in a church. I grew up that way, and I remember I was, you know, they would make us sing, and they told my dad that we'd like Omar to join the church choir. And he was like, no, the boy's a Muslim.
No, he's a Muslim.
Yeah, they can't.
Yeah, and he can't drink. Church choirs, they drink a lot.
Oh,
Omar,
yeah.
I know from experience. I mean, not that I have been in a church choir. As a Jewish guy, I was not in a church choir, but I knew them.
So I'm the three. Yeah, I'm Swedish, and then I did live in Egypt for 20 years. So there's a huge part of me that's very Egyptian.
Well, it
And
was
that's wonderful.
the most formative part of your youth. That's the good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good, the bad, and the ugly, indeed. Yeah.
In those teenage 20s.
Age 20s.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I came here when I was 30.
And now you're 25 again, right?
I'm
18.
getting
18. I did. No, I always think when you said, I don't want to drink, I'll just take some Red Bull, you know, and a water. I always forget when I was in Iran and Pakistan, working with actors. You know, we would go out afterwards and have a drink or whatever. And I did a workshop in Tehran. This was 1976.
So
Right
before
right-
the revolution or after?
This was right before the Shah
Yeah,
went down.
right.
No one knew. In fact, when I got home from Tehran, it was only a month or two later that the hostage situation happened. And like there I was watching television from my home in New York, and I saw the hotel I was in overlooking the American embassy.
With the hostage.
They were storming the embassy, and right where I was.
Right,
And yeah, I mean, I went out after the workshop with these very, very good actors, professional Iranian actors, and they said, "Would you go to see my production?" So we went. I went to see their. It was a commercial Iranian production that they were in, and it was in Farsi. And that's okay. It was in Farsi.
Did you have a translator?
No, I had no translator, but that's okay. You learn.
Right.
You learn how to.
You watch. Yeah,
You watch. And after the performance, I said, "Let's go for a drink." And they said, "Oh well, no, we can't. We'll go for a coffee." So I said, "Fine, we'll go for a coffee."
But
So we went.
the days of the Shah were kind of liberal, I heard, or
They were very liberal in a certain sense.
Yeah.
Because we went out for the coffee, and we're sitting at the table, and I'm having a drink. I said, "You don't mind if I have a drink?" They said, No, of course." So I said, "This was a wonderful performance, but tell me, do you ever do Shakespeare?" And there was this silence. I said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry. Did I say something offensive?" They said, "No." And they looked at each other, and then they turned to me and they said, "You see, Roger, we can't do plays about the death of kings."
oh my God! Wow, I didn't know that.
This is the last days of the Shah.
Right.
So you see, when you say, was it liberal? Up to a point.
Right.
I said, well, wait a minute. There are comedies by Shakespeare. And they said, yes, we can do those. And as long as you didn't cross the line.
What about Midsummer's Night Dream? Can you do that?
Midsummer Night's Dream, fine,
Romeo and Juliet?
fine.
Or Can't You Kill the Young Kids? I don't know.
Only the kids die. The king lives forever in Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, no, that's fine though. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Stay away from the king and you're good. No, Egypt was a cosmopolitan country. Like Alexandria and Cairo. Cairo had millions of Jewish Egyptians. They had a lot of ghettos.
Yeah.
Alexandria had Italian areas, Greek areas. They had people from all over the Arab countries. And then when Nasser came, he created xenophobia. He kicked all the Jewish people out, which was deadly for the economy. He's
Right.
not smart, yeah.
It usually is.
And he kicked all the Italians out, and
Yeah.
he kicked all the Greeks out. It was terrible,
Yeah.
you know. And
Because of what? The Muslim religion?
No,
No.
he-
He just didn't.
well,
he
the
was
thing
scared.
Is,
he
no,
was.
no, no. The thing is, any dictator takes away your rights, but he's got to have an excuse. He can't just come and say, "I'm going to take away your rights"
Right.
for no reason. He always says there's a state of emergency. There's a conspiracy against us.
Got to blame the Jews.
Yeah, it's much like the white supremacists. They say there's a anti-white conspiracy. They want to kill off the whites.
Yeah.
This guy, he was like, there's a international conspiracy
Right.
to make our country fall.
Yeah.
We need to get all the Jews out. We need to get all the foreigners out.
Right.
And you need to listen to me. Otherwise,
Yeah.
we need to be high alert. Everybody does what I say. And the state of emergency never goes. It stays.
Interesting that when the Dutch settled New Amsterdam,
Right.
New York, before it was New York,
Right.
I was very much a part through my family. We were the first Jews to come to New Amsterdam with the Dutch. And Peter Stuyvesant, who was the governor of New Amsterdam, the famous Peter Stuyvesant with the wooden leg,
Right.
is like a very mythical figure.
Right.
He said, "We got to get rid of the Jews." To the credit of the Dutch, they said to Peter Stuyvesant, they said, "Oh no, listen man, you get rid of the Jews, we'll get rid of you because that's our business."
Right.
What are you, crazy?
Right.
And that's the only reason my family was able to stay in New York, in New Amsterdam. The
Well,
Dutch are, you know,
That's the thing about America from the day it started. It's about the money.
it's always about the money, and the Dutch were
Yeah,
very much about the money. But it's only in the last, I'd say 20 years that I've really appreciated
Yeah.
my background and
Yeah. That's what that happens.
studying it now. And, you know,
I rebelled against my background too. Because, Egypt by nature is a very classist society. And the difference between the classes is immense.
Yeah.
Immense.
Yeah.
They're like from two different countries.
yeah,
One of the things I hated is that a lot of the rich people, they treat the poor people as if they're not people. They're, made of something else. And so I rebelled, and the rebellion, in youth, you rebel, you just reject everything. But as I grew older, I started to appreciate the good things, that I took from my background.
yeah. I wonder why that is. We have to grow older. Maybe it's because when we're young, we're naturally rebellion. I don't know.
I think it's about finding your identity. Sometimes you have to sort of like push aside what's put on you, become, and then sort of marry them together again.
So speaking of that, how did you find out about me in the Simon studio? I was through Ingie,
Yes.
and how did Ingie find out?
Well, she wanted to take acting classes. Okay.
Yeah, but she had been taking before, yeah? No.
She took art therapy, and then there was a period when she was kind of lost. And, part of our bond started that, we were working together. She started, I have a film, you want to come and act, and that's how our bond started.
Right.
Then we got married. But she said, I want to take acting classes, and she called a couple of people, she tried out a couple of sessions, and she didn't like it. And then when she talked to you on the phone, she's like, "Oh my God, I met this wonderful guy."
Must have been some phone call.
Yeah, because I think she talked to some other characters, and they're arrogant.
Whatever.
Yeah, they're arrogant, you know. What she liked about you was that, you know, she read your resume and like, my God, this guy is big. And then, but when she talked to you, she saw you were so humble. You were so, and you gave her time on the phone and you talked with her for like 40 minutes. And, you know, that's the way you are.
Well, particularly with a beautiful woman.
Well, you didn't see her on the phone yet.
I could hear her. I could feel it.
And then she's like, you know, this guy, he's really good, you should come. I'm like, all right, I'll come with you. I'll come and see Shakespeare. And then when I watched your performance, I remember I told her, these are the best trained actors I've ever seen in New York.
Wow.
Because I saw all ages. I mean, you had Tom Crockett, he was what, in his 70s? And there were young kids and, you know, all races, ages, and they were all performing. And I could see they were all trained. This was not...
Kids of all ages is what we, yeah.
No, I was very impressed.
Thank you, man.
So tell me, what made you decide to start the Simon Studio? That's a question actually I never asked you, and I'm very interested in.
I started having my children after I got married in 1971, 72. I started having children, and up until that time I was traveling all over the world as a director in Europe, Pakistan, India, Iran, England. But when you have kids, I began to think, well, I mean, I've got to have a place here in New York.
Yeah.
I have to have a place to hang my hat. I had an apartment, I had a family. I always loved teaching. It was always freelance. So I said in 1978, finally, I said, you know, I'm going to try having my own little studio class, and started with four actors. So I went to the 13th Street Playhouse, and I had a little Saturday morning class, and that was the start of it. And then they said, well, we really enjoy this, can you do it again? And I said, I guess. And all of a sudden, I only meant it to be very part-time when I wasn't directing. But I couldn't really enjoy going all over the world like I used to.
Yeah.
So I said yes, and I continued.
And you had a lot to give. Yeah.
I really, the main thing was I loved it. I loved the fact that I didn't have to, when you get hired to teach somewhere, you have to go to faculty meetings, you have to. I also found out I wasn't good working for people.
Yeah.
I had to be my own boss.
Join the club, sir.
Yeah, I know you, and you were very much the same.
Yeah.
So, and then another thing, I didn't like just teaching actors. I like teaching actors, but I found that actors in a room with nobody else has nothing to do with the reality of making theater and film. You need a writer, and you need a director also. And I thought this should be a place where all the training is actors, writers, directors together. I couldn't do that anywhere else.
No.
Because everywhere else they said, we want you to teach acting. I also wanted a place, Omar, where I could develop my own projects as a director. And I also wanted a place where I could have people like you develop their own individual projects. I also thought directors and writers should not be alone also. They should have to be they should watch the actors work.
See how their words translate.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
And maybe even they should do some acting like you did
right.
as a writer. So they get the feeling always of being an actor rather than I'm just a writer, I'm just a writer. I don't do that.
No, I benefited in all three areas in your class. I benefited as an actor because just watching you talk about acting, the small tricks of the trade that you say, you know, simple things like you have to start somewhere and end up somewhere else. That alone, you know, all these small things. And then part of the coaching actors is directing. I mean, it teaches a director how to work with actors. It does.
You have to do it. You have to do it.
Right, and then of course your writing develops because you're having your stuff read, you get notes on it, and all of that. And so, I think that your class is a unique place, and I mean, for me personally, I benefit on all fronts.
I always was most proud when somebody like you have developed the way you have, and the other thing, you already are working professionally. I didn't want the studio to be a place just for people before they work professionally. I wanted the idea for me is training is not something you do and then you go into the profession.
No.
And a lot of people don't agree with me, but I feel you're always training.
Why? Yeah, why?
You have to keep training.
Yeah.
So I want always to have professionals that want to keep learning and training. And I also felt that the teachers that I enjoyed the most when I was at Yale were the teachers that came in who were not on the faculty, but came in from Broadway. They came in the middle of a Broadway run or from just shooting a movie, and they came in to teach a week. Because now there was an energy that they had, that they were sharing with me, that was more vital. Because the other
They're on the job. Yeah.
they were on the job.
Yeah.
And I said to myself back then, I said, when I teach, that's what I want. That's the kind of teacher I want to be. I don't want to just teach. I want to be also working professionally while I'm teaching to share that kind of energy. So
No, and you know, I have a philosophy.
yeah, let's hear it. Come on.
So I believe that every creative person has two sides. You have the artist and you have the human being. Now, the artist is concerned with higher things, he's vain, and the human being just wants to get ahead in life. The artist dislikes the human being, but he needs him to survive. The human being loves the artist and exploits him in every way he can. But every once in a while, they can meet in this special place, in a place where the human being becomes more humane and the artist becomes less vain. And I think in that place, magic can really come out.
What about those who say, I have to be an artist, I have to not be married, and I have to not have children.
That's the vanity.
And if I have children well,
How can you be an artist and not experience life?
well, okay, but Al Pacino is not married.
Right.
And he has, as far as I know, no children. Maybe he does.
Right.
So is he not human? Does he not understand humanity?
He does.
So there you go.
Right.
I think for me, having a family, having children, which I was and now being a grandfather for the first time, I think it makes me a better artist.
Yeah.
But that's me.
Of course.
I think it does. probably keeps you healthier.
Are you gonna have another drink? I'm gonna get a Red Bull. Are you
I'm
gonna?
going to have another drink. And then we're going to have the bar brawl. We're going to have a bar brawl. We're going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
threat.
yeah.
We're going to have the big argument.
You use the chair. I'll use the glass.
Yes, I'm going to have the bar brawl. All right.
So, what year did you go to India again?
1978.
You know, I do. I have Indian blood.
I believe. I buy everything. I buy everything you say. Indian blood? Sure.
No, but there's a really interesting story of how the Indian blood went to Egypt. There's not a lot of Indians in Egypt.
Yeah.
But the way this happened was before World War I think in the late 1800s, my great-great-grandfather was born in Lahore.
20 minutes later.
He poisoned him to take revenge for his daughter.
After all those years.
And that's why his dad told him, don't set foot in India, because he knows the mentality.
Yeah. You know, I didn't want to stop you, but you told me that story a while back. That is a great story.
I told you the story a while back?
Yes.
Why'd you keep me going, Roger?
Because it's a great story.
All right, thank you.
I want to hear it until you get it right. I think you should make a movie or play out of that.
One day I will, yeah.
Be a great movie. It could be a great play too.
Yeah, you know, my friends would come over when I was a teenager, and we'd get stoned, and I'd start telling...
You get stoned?
Oh yeah, I was a pothead.
Oh
anyway.
my God, there we go.
And then they, you know, I would tell them the story, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you're making that shit up," and stuff. So then I'd open the door, and I'm like, "Mom." She would come and legitimize the story.
Oh man.
But it's a true story, yeah. And one day I'm either gonna, make it into a film or a novel, something like that.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a story.
It is a hell of a story. Now your story that you're working on now, I'm very excited that we're going to do a reading on February 22nd
Yes, at the Actors Studio.
at the Actors Studio
Yes.
in the Playwrights and Directors Unit. I'm really excited also to be able to play a great character that you created
For
me.
you, I created it for
Well,
you.
I love that.
Yeah.
Very grateful. To be honest, I didn't like when I was 21 years old to 30. In that age, I hated what I was getting cast for. They called me a character juvenile, which means
Yeah.
you're playing all the creepy friends, you know. You're never the lead guy. You're always the kind of you're the dwarf, or you're the this and that, and the sidekick. I don't want to do that.
Right.
And I went to an agent in New York, and she said, "Oh, you'd be great. We'd love to have you. You're going to be in our Funny Face." I said, "What?" "Yes, they had a book called Funny Face." and it's people, they said, all you have to do is,
Oh man.
I said, "I don't think so." "Oh, but you'll make money, man. This is great, man. You'll make money." I said, "No, I don't think so."
Yeah.
So I directed. And so I stayed a director until my son Danny. I mean, nobody remembered me as an actor. But Danny, when he was young, he started to do films as a director of photography. And he did one for a Romanian director. And her first feature film was called The Sublet. I got the role.
Of course.
Well, it was very surprising though, Omar, because I thought, oh my God, this is a big role. But I immediately felt very close to the part.
Yeah.
I synced into it. And I think because I had been teaching so long, there's a performance element in teaching.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it wasn't like I was getting back. It wasn't like I was starting. It just felt like I was just doing what I had always done.
Well, it's also,
You know,
you have the actor's instincts. You're born with those.
I think so.
Yeah, and then no, you're a gifted actor.
I thank you.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
tell you.
yeah. I mean, one thing I could writing this role for you that I knew you could do anything. I could stretch the character to do anything. I had no fear because I know your range, and so that's why. I mean, not many actors can do this role. Not the way you do it. No way.
Well, it's a challenging play, and you've written it with great understanding, I think, of human beings. Again, mixing research with your own life, because you're not a Vietnam vet, and you're not, which is what I'm up with. PS, what is it?
P, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, I mean, you've written it with great understanding, and you never lived in Cleveland, so.
I don't think I've never been to Cleveland, much less live.
Now the other thing that I'm very excited about is your film that you and Angie have produced.
Well, now we have a co-producer, yeah.
You have directed it, and you star in it.
Yeah.
But what is so, for me, wonderful is you actually used our Simon's studio and cast. Everybody in that class in the studio is in that film.
Yeah, it's a
which
gold
is,
mine.
I mean, unbelievable.
No, it's a gold mine. These are all trained actors.
Well, but for me, it was a gold mine because it shows that our studio in the professional lab, the training is mixed with performance and showcase, and there you are, your film.
Yeah.
Now all we have to do is have enough money to buy tickets to Cairo for the premiere. The
Well, we're
premiere
gonna have
in
a
Cairo.
premiere here too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's called Sayed.
Abdo and Saneya.
Abdo and Sayed.
Yeah.
So now you work in film and theater. What do you have a favorite?
No,
You don't.
they're very different.
Yeah.
They're very different for me because film is very visual. It's putting images together.
Right.
And it's locations, it's images, it's cutting, it's music.
Closer to your painting, no?
To my what?
Closer to your painting. Images.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
But to me though, the difference is in the words.
Yeah.
The theater is more about the spoken word
Right.
and the beauty of language.
Right. As you can see, Wafa is a very wordy play, and then I have a silent film. See, that right there shows you that I view them in a very, I exercise different sides of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is more of it's a different experience. Yeah. And I love them both. If they ever forced me to choose, it would be devastating.
I would like to think though that there could be great language in film.
Not all. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee Williams, his plays are wonderful films.
Yeah. Some of them,
Yeah.
not all.
Chekhov, I saw some TV productions, they're good.
Yeah. Chekhov is more naturalistic though.
Yeah. Albee, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is a good film.
Yeah.
But you can't make something like Zeus story. You can, but it
The other thing about Albee, he wrote the Zeus story because his ambition was to be a novelist. And he had a very difficult time writing a novel. It was very, very frustrating. It didn't work. And he started to write plays, and all of a sudden he felt really good. But he couldn't get the Zeus story on in America. And so he sent it to Germany. And the Germans said, we'll do it.
No, but there's a lot of artists like that. Orson Welles. Orson Welles had to leave Hollywood and go to Europe to make his films.
Yeah. Jerry Lewis, the comedian, was adored in France and was given all kinds of awards
He was adored here too.
as
though.
a great artist. Yeah, but not respected as an artist as much, as a funny comedian.
As a funny guy,
The
yeah.
French treated him as this great artist. They really
That's
treated
the same as Buster Keaton.
Buster Keaton, yeah.
Buster Keaton. He was a slapstick comedian. But
Yeah.
then when he went, they had revived his films in Europe in the 60s and 50s,
Yeah.
and he was invited to one of the festivals.
Okay.
And again, he was treated like like a Picasso or something.
Yeah.
They looked at him as a like this supreme artist, and he was taken back. He was thrown back. He was like, what? He never thought of himself that way. He thought of himself as an outdated actor and stunt guy. But the way they treated him there was like he was this fine artist.
Which he was.
He was, of course, and
What's
he
that movie?
cried.
Where he's on the train. With
The General.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Great.
Unparalleled.
Unbelievable.
Unparalleled. You want to learn, like, one thing that taught me so much about show business, writing, filmmaking, were Buster Keaton's, not his diaries, his interviews. He's got some really interesting interviews. And a lot of filmmakers and artists, when they come and talk, they give you this heavy lingo. Like, I was trying to, do this, and then, they go into this sort of like deep kind of thing. For him, it was very simple. I did this, and then it didn't work, so I did that.
Right.
And, he didn't go and do all that kind of,
He was just a practitioner.
Right, and one great story, which I love, it taught me so much about writing and everything, was he did this film called The Navigator. So The Navigator, he's stuck on a ship with his girlfriend, and they come across this island with cannibals. And then they go on the island, and the cannibals start chasing them, they want to eat them. And they escape to the ship, and they want to start the ship up, but the ship's motor is bust. The ship's motor is bust. So he's got to wear a dive suit and go down and fix the motor under there, like the propeller. He's got to fix the propeller. Meanwhile, the cannibals are coming in their canoes, so the time factor is crazy. He's got to fix the propeller before the cannibals come and eat him. And he came up with this gag underwater, which he thought was his best gag ever. He was so proud of it. He was fixing the propeller, and the fish were getting in the way. They were hitting against him. And so he picked up a starfish, and he put it on himself like a sheriff. And he started directing the traffic of the fish. Hilarious. And he thought, he was like, that's one of my best gags. I'm so proud of that,
It's called The Navigator?
Right. But,
Silent film, right?
right. But, when they screened the film, when that gag came on, nobody laughed. And he was like, wait a minute, this is this is my highlight. This is the gag. This is the punch. Like this is
funny.
this. Yeah, you know, nobody laughed, and he couldn't figure out why. What's the problem? It turned out the audience got angry at him. Why? Because here's his girlfriend there. The cannibals are coming, and he's already tight on time to fix the propeller. He doesn't have time to worry about what way the fish is going. They're like, what are you doing? Why are you directing the fish when the cannibals are coming to eat you and your girlfriend? So they got pissed off at him and didn't think it was funny at all. So he's like, you know, he took the gag out of the film.
He took it out.
Yeah. And the film went fine and everybody was laughing throughout. And then he's like, but I love that gag. So he did it as the teaser of the film. And alone, without being in the story, everybody was on the floor laughing.
I'm a butterfly, taking my time. I'm a skeleton.